Okay. Do y'all remember the year 2011? And if you could think back on what happened, do you remember where you were? Do you remember what you were doing? The people that you were hanging out with? It sounded like a year of promise, right? A brand new year, January of 2011, man. A brand new year, full of promises and full of hopes. Well, where I'm at right now is where I was on January 28, 2011. Matter of fact, just to make it even more personal, it was actually my mother's birthday. And when I called her, she thought I was calling to say happy birthday, but I wasn't. You see, before this day, I was a man full of anger, and I was a 5-star general in the Devil's Army. And I mean that wholeheartedly because I destroyed lives. I manipulated my way through life, and everything that I did was bad and negative. And I had blessings. I had a beautiful wife, a beautiful son, a daughter on the way. But I had lost it all too. I had stolen from my family. I had just made them turn their backs on me because I was out of line. And rightly so. They had every right to not be supportive of me. And I lost my wife. She had left me for somebody else. And I blame this man entirely. Well, on January 28th, I was on my way to kill this man. I had purchased a bunch of .380 hollow point bullets from Academy. And I was going to use my friend's gun, so I didn't have to use mine. I was going to use his .357 Magnum to take care of the business. This is something that I didn't express. Not entirely to my friends. They thought I was playing, but I was for real. And so my friends were going to come with me. And when they did, we had to stop by and we wanted to pick up another one of my homeboys. And so while we were parked out in front of his house waiting for him to come outside, I sat in the passenger seat, the front passenger seat, contemplating how I was going to do this. I wanted to walk up to this man and shoot him in his face, and I wasn't going to think anything of it because I felt like he stole everything from me. When the reality was my fault. My fault that I lost everything, but I wanted to blame somebody but me. And in order to do that, I had to kill him. And so, while I was sitting there contemplating, my friends were smoking K2 and they were getting high on it. And my homeboy, James McCleary, was in the back seat and he cocked the gun and he was just playing around with it. Well, he asked me to disarm it. And so when I go to grab it from him, I say, "Come on, man, you're crazy." And so I grabbed the gun, and I've been around guns my whole life. So, and the only way to disarm a Magnum, right, which is a revolver, is to hold down the hammer and squeeze the trigger and release the hammer slowly. Well, I had done this my whole life, so I thought nothing of it, and I tried to do it with one hand. And so when I did it carelessly. And when I squeezed that trigger, that hammer slipped out of my finger, firing and shooting my friend in the right upper chest, and it hit him. And immediately I saw that I hit him, man. And he kicks back, he goes, "Oh, why did you?" And then his face just goes blank, right? His eyes roll to the back of his head, and blood starts pouring out of his mouth and out of his nose. And I jump to the back seat, dropping the gun. And I hop in the back seat, and I try to search for a wound. And I'm pulling back his shirt, and all I see is this big hole, and it starts pouring out blood. So I hold pressure on it. Well, at that same time, my two friends were with me, and they were so high, they didn't even know how to react to anything. My other homeboy in the back seat that was with James jumps out of the car, and he goes screaming, get the F off my lawn, get the F out of here. While my other homeboy is so high, he doesn't even know how to react. He's just standing here like this. And so while I'm trying to call the cops and report this emergency, and man, I need to go, man. So I try to tell my friend, I'm like, "Man, Jared, drive, get in the car and drive. Let's get out of here, man. Come on, man, we gotta hurry." And he can't comprehend. So I grab him and I tell him to hold pressure on my homeboy's wound. And I hop in the driver's seat and I pursue, right? I continue to try to drive off. Well, I know that I gotta hurry, man. And it was like Need for Speed, man. I was trying to drive everywhere, honking horns, getting people out of the way. and I get off onto the main road, which is Research Forest, and I'm flying down. And mind you, this is lunchtime when this all went down, and I'm honking my horn. I'm trying to talk to the emergency people, and they're trying to tell me to pull over, and I said no, I cannot pull over, because I didn't want to waste another minute of my friend's life, man. I wanted to get him to the hospital. That's all I wanted to do. All I wanted to do was save my homeboy's life. And I remember driving, man, flying, and I start to see the traffic, and I know there's no way that I'm going to get past this traffic. It is so bad, and there's no shoulder at the time, man. And at that point, man, this was my burning bush experience. So it felt like something out of like a Saving Private Ryan movie where everything goes quiet. And I remember looking in the rearview mirror, and all I kept thinking about was like, man, I'm fixing to go to prison. I'm fixing to lose my best friend's life. I'm fixing to lose my family. I'm never going to see my kids again. Everything's going to be ruined. And I look in that rearview mirror, and I see just death on my friend's face, while my other friend is just panicking. And so something inside me told me to pull over. And it was God's way of saying, pull over. I got this. I promise, I got this. Just pull over. And when I pull over, I remember there was 2 land surveyors right here at the end. If you see right here, there was 2 land surveyors surveying out this place. And when I pull in, I park right here. And I tell my friend Jared, I'm like, Jared, go out to the street, man. Go out to the street, because as soon as I went to pulling in, an ambulance was going the other way, trying to meet us anyways. And so I told him to go flag him down. And so as he does that, I pull out my friend James, man, and I'm talking to him. I'm saying, look, I pulled over here. This is where I'm at. I'm in Technology Plaza. What do I do? What can I do? And she says, well, what does he look like? And I explained it to her, man. I explained that his eyes were in the back of his head. He was unconscious, blood pouring out of his nose and out of his mouth. And so she tells me, she says, well, okay, so the first thing I need you to do is I need you to hold him up and wipe the blood from his nose and wipe the blood from his mouth. And so I do that, man, not even caring. I got blood all over me. And she says, okay, next I need you to do is check and see if he has a pulse. So I'm feeling around his neck, right? I'm feeling, and I'm trying to search for that. But, man, I felt like just this little faint pulse. So I got hope. I was like, oh my God, yes. And so as that was happening, man, it gets worse. The ambulance don't show up first. The worst people that can show up, pop up, the police. And when the police came, the first thing they're trying to do is trying to apprehend whoever was the gunman. And so they come over there and they yank me off my homeboy, and I'm cussing them out, and I'm calling them everything but a child of God. And they're fussing with me, and they're putting handcuffs on me. And man, I remember watching my homeboy just drop because they're yanking me up off him. And I just see him fall flat on his back, man, and it tripped me out because they were so focused on everything else that I wasn't going nowhere. But they were so focused on me that they just disregarded my homeboy when that should have been the first priority. So push come to shove, my friend didn't leave that crime scene alive. He didn't. And y'all are talking about eulogies today. And I want to explain something to you. You see, 2 people died that day. Because I saw everything flash before my eyes, and you have to trust God sometimes. And it's not going to be in the gift wrappings that you expected, right? God saved my friend, right? It was at the sacrifice of his life so that I could live a transformed life. And I honor my friend's life. And I hate what I did. I hate it so much. I have to live with it for the rest of my life. And there are people right now that pray that I die. I know it and I feel it in my heart. And there's nothing that I can do about it. And it kills my heart because, man, my friend does not get to be here. But the only thing that I can do is honor my friend's life. I didn't get to go to his service because I was in jail. And I wanted to be there, and his family wouldn't allow me to go there anyways. But I wish I could have been there to listen to his eulogy. I wish I could have been there to go up there because I would have said some amazing things about my friend. And it made me think, because when I was going through Leadership Academy, and as I taught it, they told me to write a eulogy. And mind you, this was 3-4 years ago. They said, write a eulogy about if you were to die right now, today, what would people say about you? And who would be there? And at that point in time, when I was doing that, the lesson that you're doing right now, man, I couldn't think of barely anybody that would show up to my funeral. I honestly thought in my heart that my children wouldn't even know who I am. Not even the woman of my life would show up, because I left the world and just havoc. I wreaked havoc. And man, I thought about it. I said, man, I don't want that. I don't want it at all, man. And so when it came to writing that one, man, it made me think. So the next part of the eulogy assignment is to write a eulogy about how you do want to be remembered, about who you expect to be, or who you would like to be at your funeral, and who would you want to say something about you, and what would they say? Man, I got real deep with mine. You know what was crazy? The people that I had come up to see my eulogy was my 2 children, right? And they were taught, and I put it as in, I wanted them to say that I wasn't there for half of their lives, right, when they were growing up. But when I finally came back, man, I stayed persistent, and I was the greatest dad, and then I was my son's superhero. But then I had my ex-wife go up there, and she went to talking, and she was just saying, all she was saying was that, man, Mike was just a piece of crap, but he did change his life. And those are the biggest opinions that I hold, man, is my children, and I just want to be everything to them. But I want you to think about it as you're writing this, and take it seriously. The reason I'm doing this right now is so that you can understand and put it into proper perspective and into your lives, because all of us left the world and with broken relationships, and some of them you're not going to be able to fix, and that's something that I'm dealing with now. But you have to persevere, and you cannot give up, and you have to be consistent, because the world is looking for you to make a mistake so they can say, "Oh, I told you so. I told you he didn't change." But stand firm, man. Okay? So take this lesson, and I'll see you next week, man. I love you guys. Y'all take care in there, man. Fall 19. Hold on.